Hey everybody, Derek here to bring another video for The Walking Dead Season 6. And what this video is going to be doing is focusing on Carol and determining where her and Morgan are going to go with their characters and their story into the next 7 episodes of Season 6. This one's going to focus more on Carol, and then I'm going to make another video that is more about Morgan. But after the events of episode 9, I think that there were a lot of things that happened, definitely very game-changing, and something that I think will impact both of their characters as the season progresses. If you are not caught up with The Walking Dead and you do not want to be spoiled in any way, then exit the video now and come back later, because otherwise you will be spoiled. Okay. So first I want to talk about a couple of similarities between the two characters, because we see that both of them really come from somewhat similar backgrounds. Obviously the one thing that they can relate to is that they're both parents. Morgan had a son named Dwayne, and Carol had a daughter named Sophia. And both of them are similar in the sense that they really feel like they let their family members down. Particularly with Morgan, his wife dies. Dwayne ends up later dying because Morgan did not put his Walker wife Jenny down, and Jenny later came back and bit Dwayne. And for Carol, it's more about letting down Sophia. Obviously Carol was in a very abusive relationship with Ed, but it was more of the sense that even after Ed died, Carol wasn't strong enough to take care of her daughter. And as a result, she didn't go after Sophia when the Walkers chased her. Rick had to, and Sophia ends up dying and was put in the barn. And, both of them, in a sense, really feel like they let their families down. And it's something that impacts them as they move forward. One thing that we also notice is they both seem to follow a code, if you will. Morgan's is more pronounced. It's more something that you can refer to with the book about Aikido. But with Carol, hers is more in relation to threats and children. And what we find is both of them utilize the same tools when these same situations keep coming up. And we find that the outcomes are sometimes good and sometimes not good. It reminds me of something that the governor said, back in season 3, when him and Milton were talking. And actually, it was Milton that said it, not governor. But it was a quote from the governor. And what Milton said was that there are different tools that you need to use for different jobs. You shouldn't use the same tool for every job. And in response to Merle questioning Andrea and Michonne when they first came to the community, Milton says, "Do you really want a hammer doing that job?" And in a sense, what we really see here is that Carol and Morgan use the same tool. For Carol, her outlooks on threats are that if she finds something to be a threat, she's going to kill it, him or her, and that, of course, can include walkers, but we've seen that, Carol has, channeled this anger, this frustration, this sadness that she felt over letting her daughter down and letting herself down at the same time, and is using it to protect other people. Sometimes it's individuals like her group members like Rick and Daryl, but other times it's for children, which I'll talk about in just a second. But we've seen that there are times when Carol absolutely properly identified a threat. You have the Terminus, cannibals. You have the wolves that she killed. I mean, that makes sense. It was very clear that Carol was doing the right thing, at least in my mind and in the audience's eyes, I think, when, we say, hey, I absolutely understand why Carol would go to those extremes to take care of those threats. It makes sense. But you get to Karen and David, And there's a little bit of a controversy there. Did she do the right thing or didn't she? And what we found is that I think that was the lesson that Carol knew, that she could push herself to do something like this. And then the later times that she utilized it, she was right in doing so. But then she gets to season 6, and what we find is Carol really hits this wall where she now realizes that maybe this approach is not exactly the right way to go about things. Because what happens is Carol ends up, running into Morgan and finds out that Morgan is keeping the wolf as a prisoner. And she's like, what in the world are you doing? Are you crazy? And basically says, I need to kill the wolf because I need to do this so that nobody else dies, Morgan. These people killed many of our friends inside these walls. They can't live to continue to do it. And of course, she runs into a wall where Morgan, won't let her, kill the wolf. And this leads Carol to start to say, Morgan, if you don't let me do this, I will kill you. I will kill you to kill him so that nobody else will die. Those were her words to Morgan. And of course, the two end up fighting and both get knocked out, and the wolf ends up escaping with Denise. And of course, what happens in episode 9 is that we see Carol and Morgan, actually have a scene together. Carol goes upstairs to look out at the herd and maybe look for the wolf because she does want to complete her mission. And Morgan comes upstairs and he's trying to appeal to Carol's sense of humanity, if you will. He says, Carol, you were once a parent, right? And Carol really doesn't respond to him. And what we see is, Morgan, saying, look, yeah, I get it. I was a parent too. And, you're still a good person. You can still be that person. And Carol really looking out the window, not even really looking at him that much. I think she turned around maybe once, but she just looks out the window, can't bear to look at him, and says, you were only doing this for you, Morgan. If you were doing it for us. And then she pauses. She doesn't say anything at that point. She can't. And then she says to herself, I should have killed you. I should have. And Morgan goes, well, you can't. And it becomes very clear that at this very moment, I think that Carol, in a sense, realizes that her way has a little bit of a snag, if you will. She's hit this point where this method is not going to work every single time. And I think really in that moment, she felt lost and very conflicted in her mind about what to do. Because, I think that in my mind, I think she was experiencing two different things at that point. I think on the one hand, she was, in a sense, very upset at Morgan. And, I think that if I look from her perspective, I can understand why she would be upset. But I think that she's really having a difficult time of processing that and really trying to figure out what to do at this point. Because, she can't bring herself to really say anything. And I don't know whether that's because she was just so angry that she couldn't, or if she realized that, wow, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to proceed at this point. And I think that what we see is a crossroads for Carol. Now, of course, one thing that Carol does end up doing is killing the wolf in the episode. She ends up going outside. She finds the wolf amongst the herd with Denise. And, of course, at this point, we've known that the wolf did save Denise, whether he did it for his own selfish intentions or whether it was truly out of the kindness of his heart, like this instinct that popped into his head that, hey, there's a woman in trouble and I need to help her, and this is the kind of person that I am, and that's why he does it. We don't know. It could have been for either reasons, and we're never going to know because, while the wolf is pushing walkers away to keep Denise safe, Carol shoots him, and he falls and he gets eaten by walkers as well. And Carol does finish her mission, but I really have to wonder where exactly Carol is going to go from here, because I think that in many respects, after this experience, especially with the wolves, I think that Carol can understand why she would kill the wolf, but I think she's having a very hard time justifying to herself of a reason to kill Morgan. I think really within herself, she was, just shocked that she would go to that extreme, and realizing in herself that she can't do it, that she can't kill Morgan. And I think on the one hand, she's relieved that she can't do that, but on the other hand, I think that it worries her, because I think there's really this fight going on inside of her, saying, I need to be the toughest survivor that I can be, because I've let people down in the past, and when I do that, people die. I need to be the one that handles these situations, because I know that I can do that. But I've now hit a problem where I see a problem and I don't know how to deal with it anymore. I see Morgan, a person who may keep a threat that could kill me or anybody else inside of these walls, and I don't know what to do about it. So, on the one hand, I think that it's this, I think she's relieved on the one hand that she didn't go through with it, and is maybe, thinking, is my way really the right way? Maybe she is feeling conflicted, that maybe this is the first time where she's really going to open her eyes and go, wow, maybe I haven't always been doing the right thing. Most of the time, yes, but now I've hit a point where I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but thank goodness I didn't do it. And then at the same time, this idea of, I can't do it. And if Morgan brings somebody else back here and puts the person in a cell and wants to cure this person when this person may have, brutally killed somebody or is just pure evil according to my, opinion, I can't bring myself to remove that threat, and now I'm going to walk around here worried about it. And I think that Carol does wish that things could be different for her. And I think that this is really a time period where potentially things could get better for her. We notice that Carol really has been struggling with the people that she's killed. She has to do it, and she understands that, but we see it starting to tear her apart in a sense. If you remember back in JSS, when she killed the wolves, even though these people were absolutely brutal and massacring the people inside of the walls, she sat down and cried. And I think that a lot of that is just the pressure of, I've killed people, I've killed so many people, and I just wish that it didn't have to be this way, but I have to keep doing it. And I think that at this point, she really wishes that she didn't have to. And I think she needs to get to a point where she can balance that out. Where maybe kind of like how Rick stepped back in season 4 and let other people handle things, I think it's about time that Carol did the same. I think that the pressure is really getting to her. It's making her do things that she wouldn't normally do. And I think it scares her, but I think that she can't calm down and realize that she needs to, do some damage control on herself before she does go a step too far, and then she is kicked out of the community, or, dies or whatever, that something might happen to her. So I think that that's really where she's at this point. And again, I really have to wonder if it's really going to be Sam's death that is really going to be the key that really makes her wake up and start to take some action. Because at this point, I don't think that Morgan is really going to be the one that is going to want to change, especially if he finds out about the wolf helping Denise. I think he's committed at this point, and I think that what happened does change the formula a lot, because I thought that Morgan might want to change after seeing the damage that was done. But now that things have kind of changed a little bit with the wolf, and it kind of gives him, if he finds out about it, this idea of, hey, my method does work, I'm not going to abandon it, then Carol may be the one that is seeking the change in herself. And I think that she's seen more of the effects of what has happened rather than Morgan, partly because Morgan's been isolated for most of the apocalypse, hasn't really seen directly what has happened, and because of the fact that, Denise didn't die, I think that he can really justify it and say, hey, because of what I did, the wolf didn't kill Denise. I changed him. I win. So I think that it does change things a little bit. But again, I think that it really is going to be Sam that potentially changes Carol. And again, with children, we have seen that Carol, has struggled to really guide children in the apocalypse. She, didn't do enough for her daughter Sophia, shielded her, and Sophia died. Then she gets to Lizzie and Mika, and I think in her mind, she didn't do enough to convince Lizzie that walkers are not her friends, and as a result, Lizzie killed Mika, and, Carol had to kill Lizzie. Then you get to Sam, and I think that Carol is instantly reminded about Sophia. I think she sees another Sophia in Sam, but the difference is that Sophia was at least out there with Carol. Sam's been behind a wall, and the approach ended up doing more harm than good. And I think that if Carol sees that drawing and is able to put two and two together, I think we're going to see a little bit of a revolution in her character, something that does cause her to change a little bit. I don't want to see Carol do a complete 180. I mean, I don't necessarily expect her character to just stop, providing safety and defending herself as well as other people when she deems it necessary, but I think she's getting to a point where she's become too much involved, and as a result, it's causing more harm than it is good. And I think that it's time for her to really look at that and realize the effects of what she's done and take a step back, kind of like how Rick did, and let other people handle these kind of things. Because I don't think she's totally wrong in her motivations. It's just that she's not in a position right now to be making those decisions and taking those actions. It really needs to be somebody else doing that. And I'll be very interested to see how Carol is once, the episodes pick up. Because I don't know if she's going to be in the next episode, because I haven't seen any promotional photos or in the promos with her in it. But I would like to see, once everything is calmed down, once they're starting to rebuild, what exactly is she thinking and what's going on. And I think that it'll be very interesting to see the journey as it plays out. But those are my thoughts on Carol. I want to thank you all for watching. I'll have Morgan's video up later on, and I'll talk about some of the things that his character has done and what I think will happen as we move forward. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you very much for watching.